This is Alhir with Catalyzing the Future, and I have the great privilege to be with David today. How are you, my friend?
I'm absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Si. Really, really well.
Excellent, excellent. It is a tremendous honor to be with you, my good man. I know that you have many wisdomful thoughts. I would love for you to introduce yourself, and we can dive in a little bit into those thoughts.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I'll be brief. So we've known each other for a little while now, haven't we? So my background, if you like, I'm a former Royal Marine. From the UK, obviously, and I had a fantastic time. Went to war, did all these kind of things, learned a lot. But really, it's over the last 10 years since I left, which it seems to be getting longer and longer. I must be getting older here, but it seems to be getting more and more distant in terms of the Marines. But it's really when I started to come into my own and move into my purpose, which is really helping people in different forms. And of course, we'll talk about that more as we go on, I'm sure. That started retraining in psychology to become a psychotherapist, working in private healthcare. And the psychotherapy that I use is very much about solution focus. It's very much about going, where are we going? What are we looking at? Where are we moving to? As opposed to psychoanalytical, psychodynamic work, which people might be aware of in terms of Freud and Jung. So that work with behavioral psychology, positive psychology, evolutionary psychology, and the solution focused process really kind of, it's easy to join the dots going backwards, actually, as Steve Jobs said, but really that's been the foundation for everything moving forward. So worked there in private healthcare for a good few years. I still do a little bit now, actually. Worked eventually became a chief executive of the association here in the UK. There was about 5,000 therapists that I looked after. Became a senior lecturer, taught as well, created and helped to create new psychotherapists, and then kind of started to move and really more what we know of each other, if you like, really started to move. As one of our good friends Richard talks about, the arches of the left and the right, the kind of the right arch of the scientific arch, really started to move and study a lot more of theology and spirituality, etc., in the left arch. And creating more of a whole of me, and my business at the moment works in corporates and different things, and we help people create change. But that's really where I kind of sit now, more going into the deeper aspects of who people are, the deeper aspects of what we want to do and how we want to change, and ultimately helping to create change in people, and helping them to make them happy, I suppose, really, quite simply.
Wonderful, and I have to be extremely open with you, and you know how open I am with you. The thing that struck me in our first encounter is what you said it perfectly. Your degree of wholeness, and you literally just said, if you're focused on whole, and I say your degree of wholeness, meaning really me being in awe of it. So from that vantage point, what do you make of all the experience, and what are you encountering?
Yeah,
in the time we live.
Thank you, and it means a lot to hear that from you. It really does, Si, and I think the same from you. I really do. And wholeness is a good way to describe it. There's no doubt about it. I suffered, as we all do, through different aspects of our life. I certainly suffered with mental health and the potential of being shot at or blown up in Afghanistan when I was there, certainly does that to you. But other struggles and other suffering as well, all sorts of different things, if you like. But it allowed me to start to kind of look into myself, I suppose. It allowed me to kind of think, right, what is this all about? And one of my favourite people that I follow is Eckhart Tolle, and he talks about that in terms of suffering, if we're feeling okay, if things are going all right, then we're not going to make much change in our life because we don't really need to. So actually, that level of suffering that I went through, and as most of us do as adults, allowed me to start to, what we talk about, transcending the ego, to start to move to that place to become more whole, if you like. I'm not specifically religious, but I like religion a lot, and I've studied it a lot. I lived in London for a couple of years. I've moved out of there for the moment, and I studied Hinduism, which is my favourite religion actually, for about 18 months. Studied Kabbalah, esoteric Judaism, Christian. I was brought up as a Christian, and Buddhism, etc. And that started to give me an understanding of the spiritual aspect, and sort of thinking, right, there's more to this. There's more to the world than the scientific understanding. There's more to the person. There's more to the whole than what the science gives, if you like, where I started. That really, really helped. And then I started to move and listen and follow some spiritual teachers. Actually, I did a lot of personal development as well before that, but really started to move into some of the bigger sort of well-known spiritual teachers, just to give me that kind of understanding and that more fuller understanding. What I've always thought, but I've not always believed it, is that I'm a special individual. Now, that, of course, could sound quite egotistical, but it's not at all, because I extend that to every single one of us that's on this planet, that we're all very, very special individuals. And I've always known that I'm a special individual, but because of my identity, as in how I've grown up, because of our parents, all of this, because of society, because of my upbringing, etc., etc. You know, I thought, well, am I good enough? Am I really this good? Am I, etc., etc. And it wasn't until I started to become, I suppose, more whole and really pull all this together, the philosophy, the metaphysics that I study, theology, spirituality, science. It wasn't until I brought it all together that I thought, I'm really now becoming whole. Again, that kind of, I suppose, that same word that we're talking about there. I really started to see and recognize that within myself, and want to share it with others, of course.
Excellent. And David, I really appreciate the way you're expressing it, because it's not, we're all unique in our own different ways, and we can all be whole in our unique different ways. And I love that expression as you're sharing it with the world. From your vantage point and the diversity of experiences that you've had, what's the role of crisis in helping us become whole? And how does that manifest in guidance for others as they're experiencing this journey, my friend?
Yeah. The role of crisis is vital. And it's such a crazy thing, because you're like, what? Why do we want crisis in our life? We want to avoid crisis. We want to avoid resistance. Actually, that's, of course, what we shouldn't do in our life, avoid the resistance. We're running away from things. But in terms of more existential crisis, what's going on, it's exactly this that's going to allow us to move forward. And it's that exact point, as I talked about, that if things are okay, if life's all right, then we just bob along. One of the famous statements I use is, change is either painful or difficult. I got that from one of my mentors in my early days. Change is either a very difficult thing to do, so it takes time, etc., or it's very painful, so it's like, oh my God, I really don't want, I just want to avoid it, I want to avoid it, and you can avoid these things for life, even. So until we get that level of crisis and we think, I need to do something about this, this is not who I am, I cannot live my life like this anymore, I need to be free, I need to be me, if you like. But it's vitally important that we recognise it. And of course, let's understand the atrocities and we use the crisis, the particular pandemic at the moment. Of course, there's a lot of horrible personal stories, and horrible, nasty, terrible, unfortunate things that have been happening. But we're talking in a bigger picture here, in the wider point here, about humanity, about society, the global society, about humanity being able to transcend this, of course, as you know, a word that you like as well, and you've used before in the previous seminars, and being able to transcend this crisis and being able to move forward personally, and of course, as a society, human beings as a whole.
Excellent, my friend. Excellent. And again, words of wisdom relative to how we experience crisis, the role it can have in our lives, and what have you. as we've got a few more minutes, and I know people can definitely join the event, attend micro workshops with you, really get a chance to experience you and all that you bring forward. Any last sort of words of wisdom before we sign off, my friend?
Yeah, sure. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. So yes, I'll be running micro workshops, and the workshops will be a tour de force, I suppose, in terms of where people are and how to get to where you want to be. There will be a mixture and a blend of science, neuroscience, to legitimize to an extent of what's going on, and helping people to understand why they're doing what they're doing in their brain. Their brain is doing what they're doing, why they're behaving the way that they're behaving, and of course, importantly, what to do about it, and where to go with it. That's the kind of the key aspect. Having the understanding, the knowledge is vitally important, because a lot of people, we've got reasonably broad knowledge, and a lot of people now, we've got the internet, obviously, so we can find out a lot of stuff, but it's about how to implement it. That's the kind of the key point. And I'll be talking through the 6-7 key principles of change, which I'll save for then. But the key principles of change of how to implement and make sure that you create the change you want in your life. The workshop will be interactive, so I will take it live and be able to help people. We don't want to make it too esoteric, but able to help people move forward, and I can meet people wherever they are, basically, and allow them to help to move forward, whether they're at the transcending the ego fully spiritual stage, if you like, or not. It doesn't really matter. And really helping people to understand the foundations of who they are. A couple of my favorite sayings are: thoughts create feelings, feelings create actions, and actions produce our results. And often we forget, we don't, obviously, because we all do, we're kind of straight into action, and we're trying to get new results by changing our actions. But we must recognize that our thoughts are the basis of absolutely everybody. And that's what creates our feelings, which, of course, if we think good things, we feel good, we create serotonin, it motivates us, and we create momentum, and then we do good action, and then we get the results that we want, of course. So I'll be touching on that as well. And also another one is be, do, have. Most of us forget about the be. We're human beings. We've talked about it before. We're not human doings. So it's recognizing that as well, that yes, doing is important, but we must be at the correct vibrational level. We must allow ourselves to raise up. We must feel. We must become that person. We must be before we change. So I'll be going through that kind of stuff as well.
Excellent. And I know, David, we, at least on my end, I broke out a little bit in the beginning when you started talking, and I lost you. But if you will, just as a summary, kind of what I hear you saying is, it's through crisis that we can achieve greater wholeness. And in that, we should really embrace it. And you've got a lot of wisdom and a lot of experiences to help others likewise traverse the path. So thank you so much for making the time, my friend. I look forward to the event and look forward to all the things that you're contributing. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Me too. Thank you.
Great seeing you. Thank you, David. Thank you. And this is Sai signing off. So thank you, folks, for joining us.
And hello, everybody. Just wanted to give a quick plug at the end to make sure that if you are interested in hearing more of these catalyzing conversations, we're going to have more guests to come. And if you are interested in a great full day of conversations like this with some amazing panelists, I would encourage you to go to catalyzingthefuture.com, where you can sign up for this free global virtual event. So please follow us there, as well as on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And we will look forward to seeing you at the live event as well. Have a great day, everyone.